Alrighty, dog day. Let's finish scrapping all of this.
I bought a new mouse. I think my right mouse button was sticky.
What
That's
made you
weird.
think that?
Well, I mean, it was sticky.
Okay.
Like, having played Reinhardt and Widowmaker, I'm telling you. Sometimes when I let up off the right mouse button, it did not stop right away.
Well, something I found out about for Overwatch. Do you know what tick rate is?
Tick rate?
Mm-hmm.
The rate at which things tick?
The idea is that the server updates every so often. I'm overheating that. The server actually makes an update every so often. And in most FPS games, apparently that's in the 60 to 120 plus range. Like for something like very competitive, like Counter-Strike, Global Offensive or whatever, you know, it's higher than you might see otherwise. But apparently it's only 20 in Overwatch. Now the reason that's kind of a problem is that it literally means it's a 50-second sort of frame. So let's say you have a latency of 100 milliseconds. Then you could theoretically have effectively a 250 second total 250 millisecond delay on actions that happen. So you could like duck behind a wall and then a quarter of a second later just drop dead because somebody shot you. From, you know, because on their screen it's still like showing you outside of the wall, or the game still considers you outside the wall. Which happened a lot to me and was quite irritating. Like I'd use a deflection ability or an escape ability and I see it like trigger on my screen and I dash and then I die. And then on the kill cam it just shows me standing there doing nothing, not moving, like I was. I'm actually kind of worried and wondering how that's going to play out.
It's interesting, I saw an analysis of the netcode that actually spoke relatively positively of it. I don't remember all the fine details, but...
Was it the video made by Blizzard themselves?
No. It wasn't a video, it's on my red.
Well, they have some lag compensation, and the problem of sorts right now is that, and you know, define problem perhaps, but from my perspective, the problem is that it's heavily slanted to favor the shooter. So, you know, basically on their screen, if it shows them shooting at you and hitting, then you're dead. Which
Well, so what I'm hearing is that you should always be the shooter.
Yeah, but the larger issue, right, is the fact that because the game updates so relatively slowly, how to put it, you know, basically like you were considered not behind the wall, right, for potentially up to like a tenth or, you know, 20% of a second farther than you are, and that might not sound like much, but when you can be dying in less than a second from full health to dead at times, you know, 10 or 20% of a second, a tenth or a fifth of a second can be quite significant.
All I have to say is Widowmaker play of the game. Enabled by bad netcode.
Yeah, in all seriousness, yeah.
But I mean, I got a Widowmaker play of the game.
I know. I wasn't
That's how
referring
good
to,
I am.
I'm just saying that there's been a lot of videos that people have been posting saying, like, you know, how the hell did this even happen? Like, basically, like...
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely know what you're talking about. I saw the same thing. There were times I said, that person hit me around a corner. And then I see the play of the game, and it was not around the corner. Not the play of the game, excuse me, the replay. Oh, apparently mobs respawn in this game. I did not know that.
In what game?
And I'm surrounded. A game called Goliath, it just came out.
You know, I'm killing lumberjacks with a fire axe, okay? So... The biggest gripe for me is when I feel like the kill cam should not show something different than what I saw. Like, I remember one time when I was approaching like a door and I saw an enemy and it like ducked inside effectively the doorway, right, to get behind cover on the other side of the wall, and I die, and my body like maintains its momentum and like flops forward, you know, through the doorway, and it's like, okay, yeah, it looked like I got hit on, you know, once I was actually through the doorway and out of their line of sight, but whatever, it's like lag compensation or something, right? Then I see the death cam, the kill cam, and they shoot me, and I just drop where I am. I never even cross the doorway on their screen, even though I'm through the doorway on my screen. It's like, it seems like that should be consistent. Like, regardless of even if I die on their screen, it should still like be dying and then moving inside the doorway, if that's what I'm seeing on mine. That's what they should see, you know?
Yep.
I think that might be the dogs.
Widowmaker play of the game. I actually saw a really funny video from Raids. Apparently, if you kill
I'm wondering how
Reaper with Tracer, she goes, "Yes, come!" Like a really mocking, hilarious voice.
Yeah, some of them have stuff like that where, depending on who you kill, they make little comments.
I thought that was pretty great.
Yep. Need more snow zombies. Like, I probably should have explored this more thoroughly before popping the quest. And I'm still trying to watch out for dogs, of course. Like, if Genji kills Hanzo, Genji's like, you know, like, this time I have the upper hand, brother, or vice versa. It's like, I was always your superior, or just like when we were boys. Have you heard the dialogue at the start of the game too? Like while waiting for the match, a lot of them have dialogue back and forth there too as well.
Yeah.
Does this snow up here at all? If only I had a crossbow, I could try making some of that, right? I guess that's literally just that snow patch right there. Well, that's awkward. On the flip side, that parachute up there, that's a sign that there's a supply crate over there. And I'm trying to be out in the open, so I'm able to run and gun when the dogs arrive. At the beginning, for example, do you remember how Tracer mocks Reaper if she kills him?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently Junkrat will say, like, you know, cheers, loves, the cavalry's here, and Tracer's like, hey, that's my line!
I like that.
Huh. See, I would have gotten the info. Oh, I don't think it's actually determined until I loot it, but... saying I would have had the Magnum a long time ago sounds cool, even if it's wrong. It does mean I can scrap this, I think. And that. I was wildly off on the marker, it seems. Trying to find the nests. I definitely am a bit miffed about, like you said, the wording was a bit ambiguous at a minimum, if not misleading.
Yeah. I talked to Kyle, and Kyle's like, "No, I knew what it meant." So
I mean, looking
perhaps
at
you
it,
and I were just reading what we wanted to read.
possibly, and it's part of that might stem from, you know, 7 Days to Die and being used to the idea of, like, if it's in...
Right.
you
Like,
know,
why do they actually need to shut the servers down?
Exactly. Like, I get that maybe they don't want people who haven't bought it to do that, but it's like, if you've already bought the game and pre-ordered and paid for it, then why not let them keep playing? And they, you know, it's like, you release the balance patches if you want. You know, either way, you're gonna do that. It's not like that really changes. And everyone knew the beta progression was going to be reset anyway, right? So it's not like that's an excuse. That was posted long ago. And if anything, it almost seemed like having the beta continue should be helpful to Blizzard, right? I mean, it's a smaller pool because it's the people who've only bought it. It gives people a reason to buy it, you know, earlier than they even would have, right? Which helps Blizzard also figure out, you know, a better idea of how many people are buying it. Gives Blizzard a chance to keep tweaking the code and stress testing stuff to a lesser degree. And for balance changes and such that are made, right? The people who are still playing are the people who dedicated enough to actually buy it in the first place, right? Which presumably then offers better feedback and such than people who are just like passing through, in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I mean, some might argue trying to say, you know, well, them taking it away makes you want it even more. Now, maybe that's true for some people. For me, it's more like, if I was playing Overwatch a lot and really enjoying it, and then I don't have access to it, and I have to do something else in the free time outside of stuff like recording this video, of course, then I'm going to be, like, less interested in Overwatch, right? So it's not something I can do. And by the time when it comes out, it's like, okay, well, now I'm trying to fit that back into a schedule I've already rotated it out of, you know?
Yeah, and I get the absence makes the heart grow fonder thing too, but it seems like a bunch of bollocks.
Yep.
You know, if they shut it down for a week and then they were like, okay, in a week we're going to start it back up, I would say, okay.
They're like, we
Fine.
want to do like server architecture upgrades or whatever, then yeah. But this wasn't. If they want to do like server architecture upgrades or something, yeah, but this wasn't that. Right?
Right.
It's not like there, we need to shut it down for a few days to fiddle with some server stuff. One more to go. I think the absence thing would work better if it wasn't quite such a sharp divide, you know? Saying, you know, oh, we're going to shut it down for a day or two and make you, like, want it for that day or two, and then we'll reopen it back up. Fine, but when it's like, oh, 2 weeks, it's like, okay, well, guess I'm be doing other games then. You know, I'm not going to try to claim that everyone thinks the same way I do. In fact, I know quite well that I am very much in the minority on the way that a lot of my thought processes work. But here, lumberjack, lumberjack. For that whole 16 personalities thing, was that Briggs-Meyer? Do you remember what that was officially called?
Yeah, the Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs.
You can also get it as the Kiersey temperament sorter.
I remember seeing some people who seemed confused about something because they're talking about the whole, what, like ISTJ maybe, I think it was, that the category I generally fall into. They're like, how is it possible that it's like the most common category or something? It's like, well, the thing you have to remember is that even at the most common category, it's still only making up, like 12 or 13% of the population or whatever. And compared to most of the others, there's significant differences. Even if you say there's another 2 or 3 categories that are pretty similar that maybe, let's say, make up another 12 to 15%, that still means like 70% of people think vastly differently about things. Just how they process it,
Yeah, speaking of, obviously there's no rush, but we should update your character at some point. If Sundays work for you, then maybe not in 3 days, but the Sunday after that might work.
No, I have to take a look at it. It's sometime in the near future. I have a minute and a half to find one more lumberjack zombie, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do it. Just the snow area is too small here. It's like, I want another freaking lumberjack zombie to spawn. Come on, spawn, damn it, spawn. I'm pretty sure this is the first time I've been upset about the lack of lumberjacks. Mm, 21 seconds. I only need like 10 seconds if I can find one, but I've been roaming back and forth in the snow area and there's just not been any. I found 2, but not the 3rd. It's 5 seconds. Yeah, there's no way this has happened. Oh, that's a bit annoying. It's also dog day, so I've been trying to be out in the open and not like looting a building where the dogs can burst in through the door and then you're just cornered,
Every dog has its day.
weird thing is I haven't actually seen any dogs today at all, even in the morning. So I don't know if I... On the flip side, like, I've been running around quite a bit since like 6 a.m., so it's entirely possible a pack spawned and just missed me, right? If I'm going perpendicular to their path or whatever. Still kind of funny. I would think it was 0 in rifles and no rifle bonuses, but my bow does like 55 damage, a hunting rifle does like 65 without any bonuses, and the Magnum's doing 150. Granted, that's with like either 40 or 60 points in Magnums, and like I think it's 6, maybe, I think I might have bought all the way up to rank 60. And then 4 of the perk things for it. I have that for shotguns and pistols. I was thinking about doing rifles next. Or, of course, if I really think I'm just going to be using the Magnum, which is entirely possible, I might, once I hit, like, 61 naturally, if I've made any progress at all, I'll check. I might buy up to 80 and get the last rank of the perk. And people are in the whole tick issue we were talking about earlier. Like, people have posted videos where, like, their tracer, they run into a group of enemies, toss the bomb, and hit their, like, recall thing, and the recall goes on cooldown, and then they die in the middle of the enemies. Not only with recall not going off, but without the bomb they threw going off. And they're understandably upset about it. It's like, okay, if I'm going to die due to the lag compensation or whatever, I can live with that, but then why am I not seeing, like, what I did happen as well, Shouldn't it go both ways? I mean, I can understand Blizzard's potentially. I can potentially understand the idea of saying we want the absolute Twitch reaction to matter less, and if both people react within like a certain interval, then we want like both of their actions to register, not the person with the better latency to get a larger advantage or something. Since Blizzard, has the whole history of trying to have people be able to run stuff on even, awful machines and connections. but it is definitely immensely frustrating if you're playing something like Tracer or Genji, or even if you're just like running through a doorway and then you die. You know, you fall forward, you know, since you're through the doorway on the other side of a wall, and then the kill cam shows you like die before you even cross it, and you know, you never cross it like even after you die. It's like, that's clearly not what my screen showed. Let's do a little bit of scouting, since we have a bit of time today. Goal here is basically just to scope out the surrounding terrain. You know what I mean, though? It just definitely seems weird if you give characters like escape abilities, specifically like the dash or the recall or whatever, and then set up the game that you can use those correctly and still die, you know?
Yep.
And it actually, ironically, means that normally you have the idea that having better latency gives you an advantage, right? Right now, it's, if I'm understanding this correctly, depending upon exactly how they've implemented it, having worse latency gives you an advantage, basically because you appear slower on the other person's screen, and you have more time to react to what they do, in effect. Which definitely seems like a very weird result. You know? Feels like you shouldn't feel like it would be a good thing to have worse latency. You know, that seems like a very backwards result. I don't mind the idea of saying that we're going to try to set it up so that having bad latency doesn't, you know, massively punish you, but it shouldn't reward you. You know?
Yeah, but I'm gonna wait and see what it looks like when it comes out before I worry too much.
Well, that's why people are posting about it now, because Blizzard put up a video, as I understand it, basically talking about how, and I need to check the video, so take this with a semi-grain of salt. This is just repeating what I've heard. I haven't actually checked the video specifically yet. Talking about how they were saying that for quick matches, non-competitive matches, they were going to have 20, and then for competitive matches, they'd use 60. Which has the problem of then you're getting very different results based upon which mode you're in. Makes going from one mode to another, you know, act literally differently in terms of how fluid and such the game is, which doesn't really seem to be a desirable goal.
Right.
It's like, if you think it's worth having it at 60 during competitive play, then it seems like you should also have it be at 60 in quick play or casual play, especially since you can just enable it in custom games anyway. There's another thing you can apparently do. On the flip side, if you think that you're trying to make Twitch less important and the hero you pick and the timing, the general timing of abilities rather than twitch timing of abilities be the important part, unless you want it to be 20 overall, then, you know, fine, go for 20 overall, but don't, you know, then have it be 20 always, right? It seems it should be consistent one way or the other, basically. It would definitely be very nice to find a desert. We got a church up here. Is that the outline of the main city? No, it doesn't look like it. Alright, let's get back. We're gonna make it there slightly before dark, I think. And then we'll look at the map and see what we seem to uncover. If there's any promising leads, places to check next. This also seems to have come to the conclusion that melee are overpowered in Divinity because I'm playing a melee character, basically.
Well, to be fair to Desk, Medora was 90, well, maybe 80% of our party's DPS by the end of the game.
Medora also starts with extra stuff that, like, a player being melee actually can't get. Was that dogs? But, I mean, melee do a lot of damage. That's kind of their whole role, you know?
Oh, I agree.
And they're... Oh, that's bad. It's a bad time to have that bug happen. But that even wasn't so much the specific issue, because like Des is also controlling Bear Daughter, and you know, Rangers can do a whole lot of damage too. Probably less overall than melee, but I mean that also kind of makes sense considering they have like the extra utility of the arrows and the fact that they're ranged in the first place, right? Which gives them more flexibility. And Des just has this really bad habit of like always trying to rush up, and it's like, Des, they're melee, you're ranged. Like, just wait. Make them come to you and spend the action points in movement. Don't spend your own action points in movement, then, like, be unable to attack or anything. think we need more cloth fragments, don't we? Definitely. And in all fairness to Des, I think part of her issue is that she's treating it like a real-time combat rather than a turn-based combat, if that makes sense. And the tactics that you would generally expect to be doing or using in real time when translated into a turn-based thing can sometimes be counterintuitive. Know what I mean?
Yeah. This game's fun. Really needs to have an option to mouse lock for the screen.
What do you mean?
Like, I have dual monitors. In most games, I can lock my mouse inside the active monitor. So if I move it all the way to the side, it doesn't keep going.
And you can't do that.
It does not have that.
Gotcha. It's just kind of funny in a sense. Playing with people like Des just helps underscore how extraordinarily difficult game balancing is. Because even if you gave the exact same character, right, like optimized stat-wise to Des and myself, how we would use it would be vastly different, and not just in minor specific details at times, but like overarching what seems to make sense and tactics that seem like they would work type of idea. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
that water? Oh, you know what that is? I think that's because that's where the chunk stops being loaded. So we see water up there because it's raining outside. Get this, Stubborn. When I'm in the tunnel here, it's raining outside, and because you can see so far in the tunnel that basically the game stops loading the blocks, because it's just like literally straight horizontal line, right? Like at the extreme distance, if you have the far enough view enabled, I see water from the rain. I see like the actual rain. Then of course as you run, it loads in the terrain, and so you never actually reach it, but you can still see the water up ahead. How weird is that?
Uh-oh.
What?
My Goliath broke.
So it's like a robot or something?
Yeah. Though right now it's just wood.
I just don't really have anything particularly more productive to do right now, since the dog day meant I was being hesitant on gathering too much. So it's like, let's just mine some more iron and stuff. Gives the stuff for cement later on, too. It's kind of funny, apparently Endless Legend came out with another mini expansion DLC thing, whatever you want to call it, semi-recently, but like, I just became so disillusioned with the game that I've like paid no attention. I only noticed that like earlier today, and I just don't really care about it.
Time to uninstall.
I might if I run into disk space issues. I mean, if somebody wants to play it, I'm still willing to play it. And part of the most frustrating thing was it's like if you had a foundation that was 90% good with a few weak points, you know, that winds up meaning you have a bad foundation, right? But those few specific weak points could just be shored up, reinforced. Even if it's not perfect, it would bring the whole thing to a much better situation, you know? I'm still not sure if... I mean, talking to another person who seemed active on the forums as well, he theorized basically, well, I think they just might kind of be French assholes at times. But I was trying to figure out if it was a... if some of the ways that they had responded were part of a communication issue and cultural norms issue, or if they were indeed just being kind of jerks. And unfortunately, the more I looked at it, the more I felt like I had to include the latter, which is kind of a sad thing. And I'm talking about like amplitude responses, not like random people on the forum responses. You heard about Civ 6 that was had an announcement trailer up like a day or 5 ago? I don't know exactly when. I just
I saw that.
Did you read anything about it?
Nah.
Not interested or just waiting?
Mostly waiting. It's pretty likely I'm going to buy it. I've owned them all since Civ 2. So...
One of the things I thought was potentially kind of interesting they talked about was the idea of still having the general idea of 1 unit per tile, but allowing like support type units to stack with mainline units. So you didn't have, you know, an entire tile dedicated to just anti-aircraft guns, right? That instead you could put the anti-aircraft guns with like your infantry force or with your tanks or whatever. Because they're, you know, not supposed to be like main frontline fighters. They're there if you get air attacked from the air, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you had that weird situation in Civ 5 where you basically were probably better off without even actually having proper tanks or infantry and just using anti-aircraft guns or mobile SAMs as your main battle line, in a sense. Alright, time to drop this off and get ready to go to the surface. I also find it hilarious, Stubborn, that even like 40 plus meters below the surface of solid stone, I still hear the thunder just as loud as if I was on the surface. Doesn't make a whole bunch of sense. Alright, on to the next video.